Hello everyone, welcome to the Beach Investing Legal Series with Shayle Rothman. I'm your host, Andrzej Angelkowski, and we are in part 9 of 9, so the last series of the legal series. So this topic will be all pretty much the remaining landlord issues. Obviously there's a lot, but we're going to be talking about a few here. And Shayle, I'd like to ask you the first question being, if I have a single family home and I have a tenant living in the basement, but they don't have their own kitchen, they basically share the kitchen with me in my own home, does the Residential Tenancy Act apply?
The Act only applies if it's a separate kitchen and separate bathroom. So if they're sharing your bathroom, they're sharing your kitchen, technically they're staying with you. The Residential Tenancy Act doesn't apply to that scenario.
So we can have 3, 4 people living with me that are not related to me, and do we all share one kitchen? That applies?
Technically, you want to make sure you don't get into a boarding house issues or anything else like that. But on a simple example, that would be for sure.
Okay. So now we have another scenario where I own a duplex or a triplex, and I would like to enter one of the units. So
if there's an emergency, of course you can enter it. Place is burning down, somebody's screaming, for sure you can do that. Traditionally, though, you have to give proper notice to the tenant, requesting that within 24 hours that you want to inspect the unit as per the lease.
Okay. And to increase their rents, can I just knock on the door and say, I'd like to increase your rent as of tomorrow?
In a perfect world, yes. Unfortunately, the law, every single year, the government posts the maximum increase that can be had. 2011 was 0.7%. Which is basically nothing. Luckily for this next year, it's going to be 3.1%. So you just have to keep your eye on these things. Of course, keep in mind, if you end up having to do repairs, so you give notice to a tenant that you're going to evict them within a certain period of time that's required, you do some renovations or whatever it may be, so now you don't have a tenant, you can actually set that rent at fair market value.
Yeah. And weren't they talking about potentially changing that, so when you do have a vacant place, that you still are only obligated to keep that rent when you find a new tenant?
For sure. At the end of the day, the laws are constantly changing. So you definitely need to speak to your lawyer specifically before you're doing anything, before the applications or notice periods have been provided, because as you can see, dollar amounts, percentages, everything is changing on a regular basis. So what might work today won't necessarily work tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you, Shayle.
No problem.
You've now experienced watching the Beach Investing Legal Series with Shayle Rothman and myself. I hope you've learned a lot, and one thing I'd like you to get out of this is do work with a real estate investor lawyer who focuses on real estate investments and who is an investor himself and as knowledgeable as Shayle Rothman, who is I'm very grateful for you to do this with me.
Anytime.
Thank you very much. And it was a pleasure.
Thanks very much.
All right, thank you guys.
Take care.